Yes. Uh, Thanks. Thanks, Kayla, obviously. Oh,
This is your microphone.
oh, sorry. Lot of technology. Thanks for to the University of Pittsburgh to invite me to spend here one year. Unfortunately, it's okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are here for 4 months. I think I need more time, only 8 months more. Thanks for the Latin American Study Center, and the UCs, the International Studies, and also the program in the urban program to be here. I'm professor at the Federal University of Pará, and my scholarship came from the federal government of Brazil. What I try to do is don't be afraid about 25 years. It's a lot, but not a lot of work. But I try to talk a little about climate change in the Amazon region, not only in Brazil, but in all the area. Okay, what we are not is to invest. What we are not doing today, and we are not doing the 25 years, is to study climate change. As all of you know, and if you expect that I will talk about physical science, atmosphere, 2 degrees Celsius, and many things about gases, I don't speak. That means you are invited to go out if you expect that. If you expect that I will talk about mitigation, change of, for example, electrical car or oil engine to electrical car, I don't speak about that. That means sorry if some of you are expecting. There is something to eat later. But I'm not doing that. That means nothing about 1.5 Celsius or nothing about what's happening in the Amazon, like a sink of a CO2 or something like that. What we are doing is to study something related with IPCC second working group. That means we are studying vulnerability of socioeconomic systems to climate change, the consequence of climate change, and the option for adapting to climate change in the Amazon region. That means not atmosphere, talking about people. And we are in the social area. Okay, our background, theoretical background, obviously don't be afraid, I don't spend a lot of time, is the nexus between human and nature system. And the first and simple way to understand, and we know about that, and we talk about that, is that the human development emits or may, yes, emit more greenhouse gases that we had before. Now, you know, cars combust the engine of the car, factories, land use change, many things that put a lot of gases on the atmosphere, more gases than before. And that's a very clear relation. What we want to know is what happened with climate change and human development. This is our point. Okay, one of the things is, well, we know that because we have a lot of friends, that scientists who are doing that, is climate change is changing the intensity, the frequency, and the location of natural events and processes. Nothing new, but more intense, different places, and different frequency. Don't expect nothing new. That means we are in the same Earth system. That means water is water, heat is heat, but more intense, more frequency in different locations. That's we call natural hazard. We call that obviously the IPCC call. The IPCC, if you don't know, it's the UN Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. That means a lot of people, scientists together talking about climate change. And obviously, United States, Brazil, Argentina, or other countries are together every year, but between each 2 years, they meet in very big meeting. The last was last year in Glasgow, Scotland. Okay, what means natural hazard? Natural hazard means social, economical, and environmental impacts on the human development. And we close, in this case, the nexus. Human development, climate change, and natural hazard. Okay, how we translate this theoretical framework to the Amazon region? I don't spend a lot of time talking about this, but if you don't know, Amazon region, the Amazon region is a very, very big area, something like 3 million square miles, 9 countries, 34 million persons, 25 in Brazil. From the 3 million square miles, 60, more or less, I don't know how to say more or less the 80% is in Brazil. We are talking about the area. We have 2 big cities, Manaus and Belém, each of them with more than 2 million persons, diversity of indigenous languages and culture, the largest rainforest of the world, the biggest drainage system in the world, the Amazon's drainage system. The Amazon is a crazy river, more than 4,000 miles from Ecuador and Peru to Belém, where I live. More water, fresh water runoff than every part of the world. I talk about not water, I talk about fresh water. That's what we need in the future. One of the main natural CO2 sink system. A large part of the planet's biodiversity is inside, and many, many new species. Many active principles of medicine and cosmetics, and obviously mining, energy, and food global. It's a mining, energy, and food global player. That's really if the University of Pittsburgh wants to establish an institute for Amazon studies. We have many, many issues. Okay. How we put this framework, I explained or tried to explain, resume 5 minutes before, yes, the human development in the Amazon. This is the human development in the Amazon region. Most of you, or perhaps some of you, or it was my idea before I arrived, I'm not a Brazilian, I came from Argentina. That means I have 26 years in the Amazon region. My idea of the Amazon region is this: rainforest, many fruits, a lot of colors, and people living in the riverside, fishing. But the new Amazon or the other Amazon, the opposite world in the Amazon is mining, urbanization, and cattle and agriculture. That means this is human development. Remember, human development put greenhouse gases, climate change, natural hazard, impacts. That means impacts in this kind of people, and in me that live in the urban area. This is climate change, remember. Again, human development, climate change in the Amazon. This is what the 2021 report, the last report of the IPCC said. This is our area, what they call Northern South America. And you can read better than me, the intensity and frequency of extreme precipitation and pluvial flood are projected to increase. And we have increased number of dry days and drought frequency. That's crazy, talking about Amazon and think about dry days and drought. If somebody, I always said that if somebody asked me, nobody asked me, but if somebody asked me, what's the main problem in the Amazon? It's not water, it's scarce of water. That means we don't have water. Okay, second, and the last point, something surprised me when I arrived also, is that we have natural disasters. Brazil is not the west coast of the United States with earthquake. Brazil is not known worldwide from the for hurricanes in Florida. Brazil is not known about floods in China. Brazil is like a natural, marvelous country without any problems. Natural problem in the Amazon is, wow, it's the first paradise. But no, we have floods, we have windstorm, we have flash flood. The name of the cities is Manacari, this is raw. Boca Duarte in the Amazon, what we call river erosion. We have flash flood like in Manaus, or floods in Rio Blanco, or in Manacaparu windstorm. This is, again, what the Amazon. I return a little to development, because I make a sentence that says that disaster is the most important consequence of climate change in the Amazon region. Not fire, not gas emission, not natural hazard, natural disaster. What is development? Development, you know, you make many, many investments on your life. When I said you, I said cities, person, system, industries, families, anyone. We study, we eat, we put vaccine, we invest a lot of things in our life. To what? To arrive to benefits, obviously in the time. That's what our mothers say always, study, 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 because you will grow and be academic. That's development and time, my mother saw okay, but something happened. Something happened. It's impossible in your life. All of us, we have something that happened in our life that interrupt this development cycle. And this is a natural hazard. The only thing in the world that we have to interrupt our development is a natural hazard. Example, COVID or COVID. It's the best example. Unfortunately, it's the best example. All of our planning was interrupted, partially or totally, in these 2 or 3 years. That's the reason I said that the more increase, more intensity, more magnitude of natural hazard makes more disaster, and that's the main problem, because any kind of development, from the mining company to the people who want to fish, little fishing in the Amazon River, from the people who are making big agriculture to the people who extract fruits from the trees, all of them have a problem. When obviously happens something like this. Try to imagine the people who live here, try to imagine the people who want to fish, try to imagine the people who live here or something. And this is the Amazon. Okay. That's the first question we have. What are the dangers or the hazard and disaster in the Amazon region? Where, how intense, and how often they occur? Sorry about the sip, is a word I learned yesterday. This is one of the things we are doing. That's mean, and that's important to say. I will show some of the activities we were doing in the last years, but I try to show that it's the same level of importance to work at the academic and trying to translate this to policies, or work with policies, or work with institutions. In this case, it's an example. This is the border between Peru and Brazil. And we are talking about natural hazard and disaster in this border. This is a very important border because it's between Bolivia, Peru, and Brazil. And we translate, or we are also doing something for the Brazilian Geological Service. And we are trying to do that in the state of Pará. But CPRM is the Geological Service of Brazil. And obviously my name is there, and we talk about geological risk. But it's not enough. It's simple things. I saw. What we are doing later, that's for us is the most important. You remember, we interrupt the development. But we want to return as soon as possible to the benefit time. If our house has a danger, we want, some damage, we want to return quickly. If we have a problem of COVID, we want to make a lot of vaccine and return to the university as soon as possible. What we want as society to return as soon as possible to the normal time, or what they call normal time, the development time. The idea is to contribute to reduce the period of the time we lose between the hazard time or the disaster time, or try to reduce the impacts, because if this column is so deep, you need more time, or we need more money, or we need more effort. It's okay? That's mean the idea is this part, how to do or what to do with this part. Okay. Our second theoretical framework is what we call the social construction of natural disaster or disaster risk. And this, I contribute with this little book for the Amazon Cooperation Treaty Organization. It's a international organization who join all the countries of the Amazon, the 9 countries. The institution is placed in Brazil, but what we are talking is, this is in Spanish, the disasters are not natural. We as society, we construct the disaster. It's not a natural aspect. Oh, it's not natural origin. We construct as society the disaster. How? With a new word that I put in the first slide. The word is vulnerability. A disaster is an intersection between the extreme nature and our vulnerability. And our vulnerability, I always make, I don't say, I didn't put today, but all of us know the short thing about the 3 small pigs and the fox. The fox arrived and said, remember, the wolf, sorry, my English, the wolf. And the wolf said, for the first house and the house, the second, the same wolf, but again, they have arrived to the third house, the same, and the house, nothing happened. That means the problem is not here, because this is the wolf. The problem is here, because the 3 different port had 3 different houses. And we have, to vulnerability condition, 3 dimensions. Exposure, that means where we are, if we are near the fire, if we are near where I live. Obviously, if I live in Florida, I know that I will have hurricane. If I live in Pittsburgh, I know that in January we'll have a snow. The second is who I am. I am very handsome, 55 years old. I am child. It's like COVID. I am 78 years old. I have some illness before. Well, the same that you read on the newspaper and television about COVID. That means sensitivity. We are not the same. I live in Pittsburgh, but I'm not the same like a child with 5 years old. And there are many, many things about that. And the last one is, what can I do? And that's the difference. For example, if I'm a rich man, if I don't have money, if I know English or not, because I cannot read the signs, and many, many things. What can I do? And this we call adaptive capacity. And from this adaptive capacity came the word adaptation. Not mitigation of climate change, adaptation of climate change. Okay, the three question, how many and where is the people? Not the people. People, infrastructure, socioeconomic activities, what you want. We can talk about agriculture, we will talk about what you want. What are the characteristics of the person, elements, affected of or at risk, and what are the existing and planned strategies and measures to reduce the consequences of disaster? So, okay, then again, we go from the academic to the government. In this case, it was one of the bestseller. It's about the GIS basic vulnerability assessment of coastal natural hazard in the state of Pará. Many, many people around the world, fortunately, believe in what we did. We did some methodology. I like so much to work with methodology, and a lot of people believe on that and use it. But we cross the border and we go to the governmental application of this model. And in this case, it's in Portuguese, but it's methodological reference for mapping risk, natural risk in Amazon, mapping vulnerability, free translation. This is one example from the government of Amazonas, and we have the happiness to have the preface of the Minister of the Environment, the former minister. Okay, this is vulnerability, but you remember, vulnerability has also other things like adaptive capacity. And that's very important, because where we live, okay, I live in Bel Air because I have work, I work there, I have my family there, or I born in some place. I cannot change many things of me. If I have 55 years, I have 55 years. If I blind or I have problem with my legs, it's me. That means it's natural. It came from me, it's endogenous. But what happened with adaptive capacity? What can I do? And in this case, we wrote with some colleague a paper talking about tangible and intangible adaptive capacity. First of all, we start with this science of total environment. We talk about, for example, and this is perhaps if you are in Pittsburgh, you don't believe what I will say, but if you are in the middle of the Amazon, to have a hospital is not so easy. To have police is not so easy. To have bank, for example, the government here in the state send check for the people who have problem with COVID, yes, or some of them. Okay, if you don't have bank, you cannot take the money in the middle of the Amazon. If you don't have the army, or if you don't have the firemen, or if you have the church, a place where you can be, for example, I lose my house, I need a place to sleep 1, 2, 3 nights, I go to the church, any kind of them. And we call and make many things about that with tangible aspect. And it's very important because we can continue with these kind of things, but also we want to talk about intangible things or capacity. And for example, community participation. I forget the community participation. How we help each other in this moment. And this is very important because if you are alone, if you don't have friends, if the friend said, no, forget, it's not my problem, something like that, the perception of the risk is very important. And we talk a little about that in this people participation and capacity. What's more? Open. Sorry. Okay. What's more, talk about climate change in the Amazon. The other things very important is, you know, that if you have a city or if you have 3 million square miles, you need to know what to do with this area, what to do with neighborhood. Because land use, land planning is very important, where you will live or what you will do. For example, no people living in floodplains. Yes. How to do? Okay, we have some ideas in Belém, for example. This is in all the coast, urban regulation and climate change. But we move from local, we move to regional. In this case, it's Brazil and Venezuela in the border, in the Amazon border between Brazil and Venezuela. We talk about economical and ecological zoning. That means decide together between both countries, but we did with Colombia, we did with Peru, we did with Bolivia. The money came from the OAS, Organization of American Countries, States. But the other thing is regional. This is for the state of Pará. And this is national. Okay, my name is there with a colleague. And this is the other preface of other Minister of the Environment, Sarney Filho. That means I'm happy because 2 books have the preface of some ministers, but talking about the future about Amazonia, the Amazon region, and the zoning. Zoning is very important because we need an order where we are. That's the reason I'm here and you are there, because we mentally have always an order where how to use the space. If we use in good way, the space, our capacity to absorb, to respond to natural hazard are better. If you live in Rio de Janeiro, you know what I say. What's more, and this is very interesting, this is a National Science Foundation project I was leading with the universities in Chile, in Mexico, the UNAM in Mexico, and Colombia, 9 countries. The people are here, and we make a new methodology because we have a problem with adaptation. Nobody knows exactly what it means and how to measure what is adaptation, how to put money for adaptation. And we did an index, and this index, you say some variables there. For example, implementation time. Adaptation could not be for a long time. You cannot spend 40 years implementing an adaptation. You need a quick response. Total cost, we are in America, in Latin America, we don't have a lot of money. Autonomy level, That's been bottom up or top down. The proportion of the beneficiaries, the temporal sustainability, or for example, the integration of local knowledge in this adaptation. Because sometimes what happens is you came with a model, but the community doesn't like so much because they don't understand. This came to other work was trying to put this kind of variables in Brazilian projects. And this is the other work is development project for small rural communities. That means what you are seeing is we talk with urban areas, small community areas, national level, because the framework is so easy to understand, unless to me. Okay, later, not later in the time, but later in the, it's impossible to have plans. And what we are doing is, they don't have anything in the Amazon about that. What we are doing is talking about management, planning. This is natural hazard paper, or journal of coastal conservation, but we translate all this academic knowledge, for example, to the state of Acre. Again, Acre is here, in the border between Peru and Bolivia, and we move all our academic knowledge to improve the risk management plan of the state of Acre. You need to know where we are, what we are doing, where we live, how we live, and the management of our activities. 5 minutes more. What the new path we are following. Finish. One of them is Amazonia is changing. Amazonia is not only rainforest. We have a lot of economic development, big structure, dams. We have railroad, ferrovia, railroad. We have roads, we have ports, and all of them are hotspot of risk. For example, we have many hospitals with nuclear tomograph. All of them could, in one moment, spread. What we are doing, and one of them is oil. In the mouth of the Amazon, in 1 year, we have around 10,000 ships from oil container to very small. But very small has a lot of diesel oil inside. The small ship, something like from here to the mill, but oil. That means we work with what I did. We work with oil, and this is the newest one from the 2022, talking about Amazon region and all different kind of what we talk technological hazard, from flight, airplane lines, something could happen, ship, nuclear things, or any kind of activities that are not natural and could become a disaster. What's more? Okay. No. Sorry, a lot of technology. The second is this, and we have here a colleague, a professor of the University of Pittsburgh, and my friend, Roberta Mendoza de Carvalho. We started with her, we start to talk about ecosystem services as a way to adapt, as a way to respond to the disasters. That's on the theoretical framework. It's called climate change adaptation based on ecosystem. in opposite to construct many things. For example, if you have a flood plain, not construct a wall, trying to use the nature to solve the problem. This is what we said, adaptation based on ecosystem. Not a lot of engineering, not a lot of infrastructure, more to be more related with the nature. This is what we are doing in Belém, for example, about climate and forest, cover forest or cover green forest on the city. And we translate this to the government because they want a new focus on ecological economical zoning, talking about ecosystem services. And we hope that Brazil will do in the new activities. This is for the government. Okay, the last one, sure, is new scales. It's not possible to use only Brazil and the Amazon like an idea, and we start to use all the Latin America. In this case, is also from the last 2020 in frontiers in climate, and talking about money, but mainly about talking about Latin America. We are not alone in Brazil. Final consideration. One of these on the right, on your left, sorry, on your left, I put some word. The force of the wind cannot be blamed for the disorder caused if we leave the window of our houses open. This is our first sentence. Be careful what we are doing, not what the nature is doing. That means the level of socioeconomic development in the Amazon region is relatively low compared to the rest of the country. That's the same in Colombia, in Peru, in Bolivia, in Brazil. So the possibility of the disaster in a context of climate change is much more likely in the Amazon region than in the other parts. The other is getting to know the present of the Amazon region to adapt to the future. That's mean this is in Belém of Pará. The both of them are in Belém. The Amazon region is the biggest frontier of development in South America, and it's in constant transition. That means we must know what happened in the Amazon to be prepared to the future. To swim in middle of Belém is not normal. A new perspective, looking less at the atmosphere and more to the people. The human dimension of climate change should be given equal priority in research and public policies as greenhouse gases emission mitigation, particularly in less emission regions like Amazon. That means arrive and try to understand and to say to the people, don't make more emission in the Amazon, is something, or the Amazon or in any place in South America, besides Sao Paulo, Buenos Aires, is something not interesting, because we are not the countries or the region who are a bit more gases. And the last, the security of people and nation rests on the nexus food, water, and energy. And I said, the water cycle is the most sensitive to climate change and one of the main factors of development, clearly indicating the role of global importance of the Amazon region, because we are a water area. That's mean, and the water is the most sensitive things. And this is not, this is an Amazon, the Amazonas state, the Amazon River, something like 10 years ago. Obrigado in Portuguese, gracias in Spanish, thank you in English. I'm sorry. Thanks, I'm sorry about the English, many things. if you have some questions,
We can
comments.
have questions from that audience and also from Zoom.
I have a question.
Slowly.
Your English is perfectly fine. I don't think you have to worry about it. You have to worry because you cannot see our mouth, so it's hard.
That's fine.
In my mouth, like yours, 55 years old, beautiful. So this was a very interesting talk. I'm from computer science. I have, the other side of the brain, but this was pretty interesting, especially because in computer science and technology, we look at how vulnerabilities and disaster, how can we mitigate the vulnerability and disaster? And so it was interesting for me to hear you say that the disasters lie in the intersection of the events and the vulnerability, right? And so then you talked about adaptive capacity and the need to assess first and then come up with the strategies. There may be more organic, maybe more natural, maybe cheaper, maybe more regional. My question is, the definition of disaster may depend, as you said, on the sensitivity and the exposure as well, right? So it also depends on the context, in my opinion. Perhaps lower socioeconomic development regions have more resiliency because they have lower standards or lower requirements, right? So I lived in Brazil for 25 years, and my first 25 years, I'm originally Brazilian. And so the electricity went out. And so the electricity went out. You had a candle, you lit the candle, and then you waited for the electricity to come back. And then I came to the US and, first time electricity went out, all the Americans were like, oh my God, the electricity is out. It's like, but it's okay. It's not a disaster.
No, okay.
And so sometimes, it may be that the definition of disaster is going to change based on the context.
Sure.
And we meaning anybody who talks about it, right, tries to figure out how those people could deal in our standards, maybe, right? So that maybe there is another component of the resiliency and the vulnerability that depends on the context of the people.
Sorry, I interrupt. Depend on what you consider your development. If you are in the States, your development is attached to light or to energy. If you live in the middle of the Amazon in the riverside and you don't have, that means what interrupt your development. That's the definition is so broad, so large, and obviously it's depend, but that's the reason that if you take the science, that's the science, not the journal, the science, the theoretical things, you have many definitions, but all of them have many differences between them. But the only truth is that you decide what is your human development, and you decide what is a disaster. For example, if I have to find my wife at 4 o'clock and I lose the bus, this is a disaster for me. She's not here. You understand? But that's a disaster. Disaster means something like interrupt your willings, what you want. In case of a factory, to have more merchandise. In case of the system of the bus, the port authority, is what happened with the bridge 2 weeks ago. This is a disaster.
I wanted to follow up on that because when you use the phrase social construction of disaster, I thought you were going to go in that direction. That is, you used it in a different way, but the social construction of disaster is a very clear way to say, how do we construct the notion of disaster means then what we do, and that's a highly contested issue.
Yeah. Sure.
And where we are talking about disaster, and at the end of the day, we don't really know what we mean by disaster, because it depends on, all these variations. So I just wanted to focus, mention that, because you do have, you used it in a different way, but you do have, the phrase
So,
that really defines that.
It's the sense. The social construct, or la construcción social del riesgo, the social construction. It's an idea who came from not so developed countries and universities and scientists, because they want, and I am included, trying to solve the problem without a lot of money and engineering. And because if not, you are always trying to put far from you the responsibility. It's responsibility of God, of climate, of the nature. But if you construct your house in bad way, that's I put, if you leave your windows open, the problem is not the amount of wind. We need to start to speak with the people to reduce the vulnerability. If we reduce the vulnerability, the disaster will reduce. Obviously, when you speak about social things, there are very different, like to speak with 1 plus 1 is equal to. It's more difficult, but it's the only way to understand that we need to change our way to afford the problem, our society. For example, what's the first problem with COVID? Again, COVID is natural disaster. Our hospitals are not good. We don't have doctors. That means we hope that in the next pandemic, unfortunately, we will have 10 years, our hospital will be better. That's what I said, social construction. Put the problem on the virus, it's very easy. And it's easy, and many people do it. Presidents are doing, but they are not scientists. The problem is not God, the problem is not the virus. The problem is we don't have a hospital. Or if the hospital we have, they are not prepared. And we can move this in any kind of problem that cut our development. That's the social construction of the risk. Obviously, it's not a theoretical framework. Nothing is true.
I have a question. I think it sort of relates to the previous ones, but what you made me think is that sometimes when we think about climate change, it's so out of our reach that we find ourselves in a situation that is impossible to act. So this idea that puts a lot of thought and action in the vulnerability aspect makes our human actions more tangible, more like sort of, it's easy to feel that we can do something. But that's my question. I was thinking about your graph and development and time and the benefits. Yeah. And what if we're going to a phase when there's no going back to like a previous stage of just development? And if that phase of the occurrence of natural hazards is just the new normal, or it's something that just happens one after the other, and then it's this idea, can we think about development in that circumstances? And I mean, how that relates somehow to that idea of the Amazon as a forest, because some people claim that what remains of the forest should be untouchable.
Yeah.
So it's not that I think we're going anywhere, but just,
Unfortunately, we have a small time or short time, and obviously I not have all the answer. But again, we have many things to say about that. Return to the develop benefits doesn't mean to return to the same point. And that's a more deep discussion. I mean, what means to return? Obviously, I put a simple diagram, but what means to return to the same to the benefit? To return to the same point, for example, construct the same bridge in the same place in the park of Pittsburgh. That means this is one way. The other is, oh, perhaps we don't need a bridge. We can cross swimming or something like that. I think there are many ways to return, but always what you want is to return as soon as possible. That's the first. And the second was?
No, the second.
The forest, about the forest.
Yeah, it's just how that idea of development.
Yes.
Relates to that perspective that is going to some people that this, and I'm not even defending, I'm just.
No, it's okay. This is a very Amazon discussion every day. What is the model? What we have to use in the Amazon for the people who are outside the Amazon, but mainly for the people who are inside. But the people who are inside are me, but also is a man, fisherman on the river. That's it's that's crazy things to trying to every day trying to put clearly what we need to do with the area. We know what happened today, why. We imagine why. We study history or sociology or many things, or political science to know why we arrived to this moment. But there are many different ways to follow. What we know exactly is to return to around 80% of the Amazon is preserved. The idea is how much or how if it's enough, or we have some 20% more of deforestation, but again, deforestation is a bad word, but you cannot put an industry or an urban city over the top of the tree. That means we need to do something with the trees. Preserve is one way. Use them for fruits or for latex is another. But how many trees? That means from outside and from inside the Amazon, the discussion is very, again, we have many things in the, because, for example, one of the big players in this discussion is they are from outside the Amazon region. And one of them is United States. We are talking about developed model in the Amazon. Not in bad way, I said, is one of the players.
I think we have some.
Yeah, we have some questions in the chat.
Maybe you can answer the chat and then.
What is the chat here?
Yeah.
Chat. Okay. We have.
Do you want to read out loud, Alexis?
Alexa read better than me. Obviously.
So people here can.
Firos said, have you worked with vulnerable populations of all Amazonian countries? I'm a native of Suriname, hence the curiosity.
No, no in Suriname. We have some agreement with the, it's a Dutch name of the university, don't remember, but we have, but we didn't arrive until Suriname.
And then there's another question from Katrina. I study gender issues in the context of international development. Research indicates evidence from several global regions that climate change has disproportionate impacts on women compared to men. Is there evidence that gender issues make women in the Amazon more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change or exacerbate gender inequality in certain ways?
Oh, wonderful question. Again, about sensitivity. You remember exposure, sensitivity. Gender is a problem. It's a problem. It's an issue. Vulnerability is very related with other words. Thanks, Katrina. It's related with dependency. Vulnerability and dependency has more or less, not similar, but they are going together. What's the role of the woman? Many roles of the woman in the Amazon or every place. For example, the relation with child under 5 years old, for example. or the moment they need to feed bread,
Breastfeed.
breastfeed. I cannot do it. That's one of the points. Or for example, when you move a family from the house, a broken house, and you move to a place like a refugee area, who is in the family who take the order of the house, more or less, not always, the female, yes? There are many ways to to take approach of the gender things. Vulnerability and woman is related with, we depend of the woman. Most of the family who cook is the woman. Most of the family who take care of the child, most of is the woman. That's mean dependency and vulnerability of woman. It's very clear. I don't work in these kind of things until now, but I'm very clear. What we don't have is, for example, what happened in other countries, like for example, Muslim countries or very Orthodox Jewish countries, where the woman has a different role in the society. For us, for the Amazon, the problem is how we depend on the woman as a family, a society.
So as we are getting on time, I will say to Alexis that we have questions in the chat that will be forwarded to you.
Yeah,
and
sure.
then
I will
you
answer.
can engage in that
Yes.
conversation. And with that, I would like to thank you very much. Thank all of you very much. I hope to see you in person again very soon. Remind everyone that we have pizza in the back, and we also have boxes if you want to bring with you, or it's just eating in the times of the natural disasters.
Wow, this is a disaster.
And also, thank you very much for those of you who are on Zoom. This is new for everyone. And we have been, this is actually the first time that we do a hybrid event. And we have been working with the new system in the ways we're making this happen. So we appreciate any feedback that you may have, and so we can improve in the next talks. So with that, thanks.
And I will be here